Well, hello, my dear friends. I'm glad you came back. We're going to continue right from where we left off with evaluation metrics. All right. So, right now, at the moment, we have the steps to do, the codes we will write, and the meaning of the metrics. So, let's design the notebook using all this information. Okay. So, first, I want to go to the section with the steps, copy the seventh section. Okay. Over on the right, I'll open up a cell in Markdown format and paste all of that into it and run it. Okay, my friends, so now I'm just going to go down here to the codes, and I'm getting the guess code, and I'll paste it into the cell again on the right, and let's run that. All right, so now it's time for the metrics. Now look at this, guys. I want to do a study here. I will deal with each metric separately. So, for example, I want to start with accuracy first. So that means first I'll take the metric code and paste it here over on the right. And see how it calculates this metric with the accuracy score function. Then it puts y-test first and then y-pred in it. Okay. Now I'll take the print code below for this metric, and I'll just copy and then paste it in below. Let's run that code. Whoa, oh. Okay, so check it out. We got an error. Now, we got an error because we did not execute the import code required for these metrics. So remember when I was asking you, hey, pay attention to this or make sure you remember this. This is why. So we got this error code because we didn't run the necessary import code for the metrics. So let's go ahead and fix the error. I want to take this import code from the left-hand side and paste it into the cell on the right. Now let's go ahead and run all the codes again. Right, so this time it works. But it's a very important lesson to remember. Now, we've got an accuracy metric. Turns out to be 78%. Yeah, so you see, we've obtained a machine learning model with an accuracy of 0.78 based on ChatGPT studies from start to finish. Now, what does this metric actually mean, guys? Well, why don't we go down here and do the review? So ChatGPT says about this accuracy is the most basic evaluation metric and represents the proportion of correctly predicted instances, both true positives and true negatives, out of the total number of instances. Okay, so my friends, we can see the way it's calculated here, right? And anybody who wants to can, of course, go ahead and examine those details. But let's read what ChatGPT says with this short explanation. You can do that on your own time because it looks to me like ChatGPT also has a caveat. Accuracy alone may not be sufficient if the data set is imbalanced, meaning that one class is much more prevalent than the other. In such cases, accuracy can be misleading, and it's important to consider additional metrics. Okay, so in this context, I'd take the entire text of accuracy and I'll copy all that and then paste it into this cell in Markdown format on the right. And yeah, so I'm going to add item titles just to make that text look better. Let's run the code. All right, so this is great, right? So we can now continue with other metrics. All right, so here we are in the information section. We can review the next metric. And let's see what it says. The following metric is precision. And ChatGPT goes out of its way to explain that precision is the proportion of true positive predictions out of the total instances predicted as positive, both true positives and false positives. It measures the model's ability to accurately identify positive instances. Whoa, that's kind of mind-blowingly clear, wouldn't you say? Again, we can see the way this metric is calculated. And when you want to, you can have a look and read it through yourself. But ChatGPT actually continues the explanation with precision is useful when the cost of false positives is high, such as in medical diagnoses, where misclassifying a healthy person as having a disease can lead to unnecessary treatments or procedures. Okay, so now I want to transfer this information over to the notebook. So I'm going to take this whole part, open up a cell on the right in Markdown format, and paste all that in. Okay, so I'm adding item titles to make the text look better, and finally, I'll run the code. Great, so now let's continue. I can go up here and come to the code part of the metric. So here first, I'll take the precision code and copy all that and paste it into the cell on the right. Now check it out, guys. Here, it created a variable named precision and called the precision score function. It placed the y-test and y-pred variables in it again. So that's good. Let's continue. We can now print this metric. So I'm going to take this print code, copy, and then I'll paste it under the metric on the right. And now we can run that code. All right, so you see, my friends, the value of the metric is 0.68. Now, yeah, by the way, we'll also do a study to evaluate these results, but now we get the results directly. Okay, so let's continue. There is a recall metric, and that one's next. So now we'll examine the explanation before we move on to the codes. So I'm just going down here, see what it says about recall. Recall, sensitivity or true positive rate. Recall represents the proportion of true positive predictions out of the total actual positive instances, both true positives and false negatives. It measures the model's ability to find all positive instances. Okay, so we see the way that it's calculated here. And finally, ChatGPT goes on to say, the recall is important when the cost of false negatives is high, such as in detecting fraudulent transactions or identifying diseases where missing positive instances can have severe consequences. That makes sense. So now let's transfer these explanations to our notebook and see how I'm copying everything from here, and I'm going to paste it into the Markdown format cell over here on the right. And I'm adding article titles. And yeah, we can go ahead and run that code. So I'm going up here now, and I'll just get the recall codes. And I'm going to take it from here, and I'll paste it into the cell on the right. So yeah, here it created a variable named recall and called the recall function. And then after that, it placed the variables y-test and y-pred again in it. All right, so now let's say that we want to print this metric. So again, I'll just take the print code from the left side and add it to the bottom of the metric on the right. All right, so now that everything looks ready, yeah, we can go ahead and run the code. Well, look at this, guys. We get the result of 0.81. So doesn't that seem like a good result? Like I was saying earlier, we're going to have these results evaluated by ChatGPT. So we'll continue with the following metric. And the next up is the F1 score metric. So I'm going to go down here and let's see what ChatGPT has to say. F1 score is the harmonic mean of precision and recall. It provides a single metric that balances both precision and recall. Okay, so here we can see how it's calculated. And finally, it'll say the F1 score is useful when you want to consider both precision and recall and want to find a balance between them. Okay, so I'm going to transfer all that to our notebook. I'm just going to copy all this. And over here on the right, open up a Markdown format cell and paste all that in. I'll add item titles to make the code look really nice. And then I can run that code. All right, so now I am just going up here to get the metric codes. And I'm going to just take all this from here and, of course, paste it into the cell on the right. Okay, guys. So here it created a variable called F1 and then called the F1 score metric. It placed the y-test and y-pred variables in it. And now we can go ahead and print it. So I'm just going to grab the print code and paste it into the bottom of the metric. And yeah, let's go ahead and run it. All right, my friends, we get our result of 0.74. So now we're going to ask ChatGPT for the evaluation of this result. So let's say I'll continue, though, and I want to examine the last metric it suggested to us. So which metric was that? It was ROC AUC. So I'm going to come down here, and let's just try to remember what Chatbot says about this metric. Area under the ROC curve. Okay, the ROC curve plots the true positive rate, sensitivity, against the false positive rate, specificity, at various classification thresholds. The AUC ROC represents the overall performance of the model across all possible thresholds. A higher AUC ROC value indicates better model performance. The AUC ROC ranges between 0 and 1, where 0.5 represents a random classifier and 1 represents a perfect classifier. Wow, that's pretty doggone clear, wouldn't you say? So it does continue, though, and says, the AUC ROC is useful when you want to evaluate the model's performance across various thresholds and have a clear distinction between positive and negative classes. It is commonly used in binary classification problems. So yeah, since our data set has a binary classification problem, this metric will be perfect. Okay. So within this context, I want to copy the entire text here and paste it into a cell over here and right in Markdown format. So I'm going to add asterisk, of course, for the title here, and I can go ahead and run the code. All right, so now, my friends, I will get the necessary codes for this metric. So I'm going up here, and I'll take the following code from here, and I'll just paste it into the cell on the right. And see here, it created a variable named ROC AUC. Then it called the ROC AUC score function, and again, it placed the test and estimation data in it. Perfect. So now we can print this metric. I'll take the print code from the left and put it over here in the cell on the right. Now we can run that code. All right, so let's have a look at our results. About 0.79. So what's ChatGPT say about this? As this value gets closer to 1, it would be good for the model, right? So if we evaluate it in this context, 0.79 seems to be pretty good, right? Now, by the way, my friends, I do want to make a point here. I don't know if you noticed, but it handled all the metrics separately. However, I wonder if you're noticing or even wondering, would there be a shorter method for this process? Well, you can access summary information of all these metrics by using the classification report function. Did you know that? But you see how ChatGPT handles it. It prefers a more extended method for this purpose, and it addressed every metric in order. So I wanted to consider ChatGPT's suggestions to examine the functions of these metrics and the way that they are called in more detail. So that's all good. But my friends, we've actually examined all the metrics. So that's how step 7 gets finished. So what do you say? It leaves only 3 steps left. However, I think the most important of these 3 steps is the 8th step. That's the tune the hyperparameters step. So it's within this step that we're going to set the parameters again using various methods. So it sounds a little more complex, and of course, we're going to cover this part in a separate video. So let's wrap it up here, and I'll see you next time.